Hey, y'all, good morning. It's your girl, Coach Christal, and welcome to a second episode this year of People on Purpose. Now, I want to just say, first of all, pardon the delay, but I am human, and we've had a couple little, I'm just going to say, mental gymnastics moments this morning. Not that I didn't want to be here, but I was preoccupied in my motherdom and in my lifedom and just moved some things to the back burner. So I apologize, but it doesn't mean that I care about this any less. Here. At Steps and Stages, we believe that your vision is your discerning tool for every decision you make. And I'm so grateful to have a partner in believing here on this stage with me this morning. If you're just joining us as a part of our Steps and Stages family, we have a mantra that just says a lot of things happen before this. And I guarantee a lot of things will happen after this. But I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. This is your first time joining People on Purpose. This is a new podcast that I launched this year, in addition to Wisdom Wednesday, which you may have seen over 75 episodes of. But this is to make sure that people understand that there are people living their lives on purpose, with purpose, and that does not mean that everything is perfect. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in this morning. My guest is Wyneshia Hicks. Wyneshia Hicks is the proprietor and the director of Wise Roads to Healing. Not only is she a partner in believing of mine, but she's also a client. And so we're just going to talk about some things this morning that allow you, us, we to continue to grow and thrive together as we're building vision simultaneously alongside each other, because sometimes we think things need to take back seats to the vision, or we feel like we need to take a back seat, or we feel like we're in competition with the people who are believing with us. And so I just wanted to bring Wyneshia on this morning to talk about her perspective as a business owner, an entrepreneur, a therapist, and a consultant all across the world. So please help me welcome Wyneshia Hicks. Hello, hello.
Hi, good morning.
Hey. Okay, Wyneshia, I just kind of gave you the intro that I love, but please tell the people who you are in your own words.
Well, you pretty much nailed it. So I am the CEO, founder, and director of Wise Roads to Healing, which is my private therapy practice. I am an aunt, a mother, a cousin, a friend, a dancer, a visionary, a dreamer. And I am coming in here from outside DC, Metro DC area, from Germantown, Maryland. I'm originally from New York. I always feel like I should have started with that.
Right.
Native New Yorker.
You can't let Brooklyn go. Right.
Yeah, and I am my client. I'm a client, and I am an avid seeker of higher and higher personal, professional development.
Yeah. Wyneshia, just real quick, tell people what type of therapy you practice, because I think, a lot of times we think therapy is one big bucket. Right. And it's not. It's a very diversified industry depending on the relationships that you make. So tell people a little bit about what you do.
For sure. So I'll start by saying I'm a mental health clinician. I am licensed clinical social worker, and I specifically practice a particular therapy known as dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. So I work with highly suicidal and depressed young people, adults, typically centered around adolescence and the challenges of adolescence. Some of my clients struggle with emotion dysregulation problems, which cause them to kind of like go into like maybe self-harming and hopelessness and, seeking an exit ramp from their lives. And so that's the primary thing that I do. I also support parents. So parents who need coaching around how to parent children and adults children who are also struggling with this, like figure out boundaries. How much should we help? When do we let them fly? How do we support them as they fly? What kind of safety nets do we need to create? And I coach and support corporate executives who are struggling with balancing their home life and work life and really trying to figure out, like, I'm kind of a sensitive individual and I have it all figured out at work, but when I go home, I feel empty, and how do I translate what I'm doing at work into my home life? So I wear a couple different hats.
Yeah, but all of them I think are really amazing in terms of making sure that people come back to the life they're living.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where you and I kind of dovetail. You've been a client for like 4.5 years now, but we'll get to that at the end. What I want to talk about right now is your trajectory from being inside of a practice to then launching your own practice. Tell us a little bit about, let's do this one by one for people, because I think there's a lot in there, and I know kind of the ins and outs of the story, but I also believe that there are several people who in these past few months, few years have wanted to be entrepreneurs, have jumped out into a water that was a little bit deeper than they expected, and sometimes couldn't find life preservers to keep their vision afloat. So let's talk a little bit about what your trajectory was coming out of a kind of a like solidified practice that you were an agent of change inside of, then being the agent of change of Wise Roads to Healing.
Yeah. So, that, again, it was slippery. It was muddy. I was just listening to a talk about muddy shoes and muddy steps and how how it can be really difficult. And so I think for me, being part of someone else's business, someone else's vision, someone else's dream, I think in many ways is something that has always been comfortable to me. I always think of myself as, like, I always say, like, I'm not a solo artist, I'm like a community artist, I'm in the core, that kind of thing. And so I think that was really comfortable for me. I knew what to expect. I had certain kind of liberties that I could take, and I was seen in a particular kind of way. One of the most, veteran or seasoned therapists in that group. And so it was really comfortable and warm and nice until it wasn't, right? Until I really started to kind of feel like, I'm not sure the way this is the way I want to be. Like, I'm not so sure I'm being me in this as much as I'm being a reflection of somebody else's dream, somebody else's business, somebody else's values. And so again, a lot of me making the jump really was being in the work that we'll get to, but just to sort of translate it, it was really me being able to sit back and say, like, who am I? Like, who is Wyneshia? Like, what is my core? What are my values? And how do I make sure that I am daily walking those values? Just a tiny little piece, I got sick. I had a surgery, and there were some mishaps. And so I got really sick. And at that point, it really sort of brought things into focus. Like, hold on, wait a second. Like, what is for your health? What is the best thing for your health? And at the time, the best thing for my health was to free myself. Yeah. Right. And to decide, like, I have to decide, I have to make my own schedule, and I really joined that with, like, how do I bring my best self forward? So it took some time to figure it out. Like, so it was a couple of years of me, like, kind of dabbling in, like, what would it be like to start a business? What is it like to start a private practice? Can I launch on my own? Like, will people stay with me? Will I be able to bring new clients in? Do I have all the mechanisms in line for what a business owner, needs, accounting knowledge, and, just all these check marks that I was like, I don't know if I do. Right. But it became like, I think Anise Nin, I'm not know if I'm saying the name, pronouncing it properly, but there's a quote that says, there comes a time when, like, the safety of the bud is actually suffocating. I'm translating poorly. Right. But this idea of being like, I'm in this thing that feels comfortable, but actually is squeezing me, and if I can just say, okay, let's see. So it took a lot. I needed a lot of support. I needed a lot of encouragement. and I needed to ground myself in me and my own strengths. And so that's sort of how I decided. It was just like, it was getting too uncomfortable. The comfort was no longer comfortable.
Right. And I think you hit on this before, like in terms of your clients who are corporate executives, and we see this all the time, is that people are thriving in their jobs because the structure is so clear.
Yes.
Right. The structure is so clear that if you do this, you get a bonus. If you don't do this, you get fired. If you do this, we clap. If you don't do this, we boo. Right. All the things are so just black and white, and life is not black and white. So then you get home with your kids and you're like, well, why aren't they clapping for me? I'm making dinner. Why aren't they clapping for me? I'm driving to soccer, right? Or why isn't my husband clapping? Why isn't my wife clapping? I'm doing all the things. I've done the words of affirmation. I've checked off all the boxes. Why isn't this thing working? And I think what happens in that configuration is that we get so used to someone else saying what the rules are of success that we miss the opportunity to practice new ways of succeeding.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay, tell us some of this. I know, but let's just talk this out. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook right now, and the talk on LinkedIn has been about how many Black women have lost their jobs, and what entrepreneurship is really like, and there are all these support groups, and I just want to say to the women out there who have been climbing that strategic ladder of success, you are the person who was doing the work. You are the gift that was keeping that organization alive or thriving or growing. So if anything has been lost, it's just a boundary, like a little sector of what was keeping your gift enclosed has been opened, and now that gift can spill out into the world in any way you want it to, and you get to now reconfigure that gift alongside a life that you love living, not just a career you practiced having. So, Wyneshia, what were some of the scary parts?
I think so. One of the scary parts was knowing that I had been in a box that was configured for me. And so it felt often like the reason I had clients was because someone else paved that path for me, right? Like, oh, this is the person we have in our practice who does this thing or that thing, or, in the particular practice for a while, I was like the only Black female DBT clinician, right? So if somebody needed that, then that was right toward me, right? And so just knowing that, like, there was a funnel, people were being funneled to me, and I was like, what are they, the funnel? So if I take this away, I lose the funnel. I will have no clients. But when I do, what will people think, right? What will people think about why I left? Will they think poorly, or you know what I mean? Or will people be like, who knows what people will think? But I had to really, again, like as a therapist, I had to sort of check myself. Like, what would you tell a client if they were saying, what do people think about me? I would say, like, what you think about you is the most important thing. Right. So part of it was like the funnel. How will I do it? Where will I do it? If I leave this place where I have this lovely office where everything is all set up for me, where will I find another office? Where am
I going to print?
Where am I going to print? Like, where am I? People, you know what? People do not think about that, but where am I going to print? And some folks will say, oh, well, we have a paperless office. And I'm like, yeah, but some things you need to print. Like, where will I do that?
It's those little things, those little creature comforts, even in your job, even in your career, those creature comforts of access to a certain type of way, certain methodology that sometimes keep people from leaving, because they're like, well, where will I print? Where will I, all the things that feel like they're hurdles, but they're really just little hiccups.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, being attached to someone else's name, right? So you're attached to someone else's reputation, and then you're thinking, can I build one of my own? Yeah. Do I have a reputation? What is that reputation? And just think, can I afford this? I think often we talk about a lot of things, and people don't admit that they were like, can I sustain myself financially, especially in, the last 7 years of climate, where like some people like, how do I do that? So those were some of the hurdles that I had. And, maybe we'll get to how I got on the other side of that. But that comfort it can be really, it can have you in a chokehold.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's jump to the other side. Now, one of the things that was a barrier for you that I know of, as your coach, is like, Wyneshia, numbers don't lie, people do, right? And a lot of times those people or that person that's the main liar is you in your head, because like we have all of these other traumas that come along with money, and we think that we are supposed to either be making all of the money by ourselves, with ourselves, no team, no nothing. Or we feel like there's never going to be a way that we're going to get back to that salary that this other organization was offering us. Now, let me just ask you a yes or no question. Is it true, yes or no, that you did match your salary from your previous employer within the first year of being an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to put that out there, y'all, because that's really the hardest. That was the hardest thing for her to really admit or achieve, because she kept being like, I didn't do it. And I'd be like, let's look at the balance sheet. Yeah. All right. So you go. What you tell them your story.
Yeah. Again, I am a therapist who does therapy and is in a coaching program, right? Mm-hmm. And I have to say that for me, it was the overlap of the two things that really helped. And, some of my best friends are therapists, like, some of my best friends are people who feed me, and who see me in ways that I sometimes don't see myself. So for sure, that was the big thing. How will I make the money? What will I do? Mm-hmm. And you said, let's look at the balance sheet. Let's look at the numbers. And as we did that, jaw dropped. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize I was so focused on the what if not? What if not?
What if it fails? What if I don't make it?
Fails? Right. Yes. What if it fails? What if I disappoint myself and the folks who were like, you got this, but really, what if I disappoint myself? What if I fail? What if I lose my house? Like, all these versus what if you get a bigger house? Yes. What if you make more money? Like the what ifs become negative instead of the what ifs becoming like, what if you do really well? Yeah. What if you already have a good reputation? Right. What if people have been waiting for you to do this? Mm-hmm. What if that? Right. And so getting to the other side of it has been really, really, really wonderful. It's been challenging, or it's been nuanced, right? It's been very dynamic. Like I sit in front of a quote that says, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. And so when I think about how I was able to do it, is because I sit with a lot of people who call forth my best, and the person in this interview. Yeah. But, I think really taking stock of, sometimes it isn't just you, right? Sometimes it is you through the eyes of other people, kind of helping you see forward a little bit more. So I had to shift to the what ifs of all the good things. What if all the good things happen? What will that be like? Yeah, guys, what if you win? What if you win? Yeah, like that's a big one. We don't think about what if we win. We think of what if this doesn't work? Do I have a backup plan for this? And all of those backup plans. And I just tell you, like, this is like ingrained in people from the beginning. It's ingrained in me since 7th grade of like, well, what if this dancing doesn't work out? Or what's your backup plan? And it's like, when you tell people that they need to have a backup plan, they believe less in their first plan. Yeah. Right? It just tells them that there's something else they could fall back on. But when there's no safety net, people thrive. Yeah. 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 So I remember when just a quick thing. I remember when I was in undergrad and transitioning to grad school, I was trying to decide about the MA or the MFA. And someone said, so sometimes what I'm coming to say is that sometimes we pretend we believe in something because we're really pushing back on something, or we're fighting, or we're like trying to spite something. Yeah. And so someone said to me, you don't need an MFA. You just want to do community dance. Like you don't need an MFA. Like that's, what are you going to do with that? You're not going to teach. You're not going to. And I was like, oh, for real? Okay. Well, guess what? Let me show you. Now I gotta have it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I gotta have it. And so that's the other thing that's different, right? Is like, doing something because, again, in just like regular speak, because you're trying to spite somebody, like you want to be like, watch me, is not the same thing as doing something that is in your dream, or it's just something you feel like you really want or you think you can have because
Right.
you really believe that, right? Like
Yeah.
I pursued that degree to spite this person and I got it and I nailed it and I locked it down and I made my own pieces. You don't want to choose me for your piece. Fine. I'll make my own. Like,
Right.
you know, but it was out of spite for so much of it was out of spite versus like, this is me, right? And it was me. But on top of that was this like, you're not going to tell me
what I can do.
What I can do or what I shouldn't do or what I'm not good enough to do or what it doesn't match up with what you think it should look like. So I think that's also part of how I got to this place. But what does it look like to people? That was one of my other fears. What will it look like if I go out on my own? Right. And just being like, it's going to look like you're being who you should be, should have been for a few years.
It's just going to look like your life.
It's going to look like my life.
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about real quick, because again, in this infodemic, in this transition, in this kind of catalyzing period where people are shedding old values, old lives, old personalities, you get to decide what stays and what goes in your life. You are the CEO of your life. And if you find that your main motivation has been proving other people wrong, then now I just want people who are hearing us right now to change your motivation to proving the best you right. Who cares about proving those other old voices wrong? The people who said you couldn't do it, they didn't believe you. Okay, let them go somewhere and be what they're going to be. You have a responsibility to become who you are supposed to be. So let's spend this next time, these next steps of our lives, proving our deepest, most highest level of ourselves right. Okay. Okay. Wyneshia, you're a therapist, right? By trade, a therapist who has a therapist and a coach and like really pursues growth. Tell the people why. Because I think people think once you know something, it's okay. But knowing without practice does not create change, right? That's not self-awareness. We've talked about this all the time. Self-awareness is not transformation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like why for me is this concept of like we're always I want to always be growing, right? The earth is always growing. The grass is always growing, right? And so for me is why am I not content? Because sometimes people, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to put words on it, right? What I have learned is that inside me is this like expanding, it's this big thing, this big energy, this huge purpose, right? I mean, I have something I was put here to do. Yes. And I've not done it all. I've done a lot of it. Yeah. I've not done it all, right? And there's more. And this sometimes people say, oh, you do the most. No, I'm doing what I was put here to do.
Yes, we do the most.
All the things. I want to do all the things. So yes, I do the most, right? Yes. But what is the most to you? Right. Is the best to me, right? Like what is too much to you is just the beginning for me, right? So for me, why is that there is more growing to do and there's always more learning. The field of clinical psychology and such is changing every day. Yeah. Like the work that I do now didn't used to exist. Right. Right. Like there didn't used to be this particular therapy for these particular symptoms, as I like to think of them, right? Like people say, oh, diagnosis, cool. But symptoms, like I'm always looking at what are the symptoms and how can I help you mitigate those, reduce those symptoms so that you can live a life you love, a life worth living. Right. So for me, it's like, I'm not done. There's so much more to do. There's so much more to learn, you know, even in my surgery experience, like what the previous surgery looked like and what the second surgery looked like, totally different. Why? Because things have developed, technologies have developed, our minds are changing. So why would I stop? Because it looks nice. My house is cute. Yeah, my house is cute. Yeah, that's fine. And it can be cuter. And then it can be more. And there can be more, you know.
Right. You can be grateful and still want more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I just want to say this for people because sometimes people say, oh, you know, especially in a therapeutic practice, people might say your striving is maybe trying to cover up something else, or right, like this is a coping mechanism for this, right? And this is not about trying to get something to cover up a desire. This is about actually admitting that you have a desire that is beyond the strategy of your current life, that it is beyond the success that you may have already achieved, that you can go beyond traditional success and actually get to true freedom, right? Rather than pretending that this day-to-day 9 to 5 strategic scale up the ladder thing is happening and you're calling it success by your own design because actually somebody else designed it, right? And then if they decide to change the rules, you're a casualty of their desire rather than being a continuation of your own, right?
Yes. And I love that because I think that there is this perception and listen, there might be folks who are engaged in the cover up, mentality. That might be a thing. That might be a thing, right? Guess what? You don't get to decide that for me though, right? That's also part of the freedom is you don't get to decide that. So for me, this is a revealing process. It's not a cover up. This is a revealing. This is the unveiling process that I continue to unveil more and more and more parts of myself and more and more parts of like the more I am talking about what I would love and getting to that, the more I realize there's more stuff I would love. Like, wait, I'm allowing myself, I'm freeing myself, I'm revealing myself. And back to the beginning of this, right? Like working for someone else, whenever they change the rules, you must fall in line, right? And so for those of you who know me, I'm not into that. All right, homie, don't play that. I'm not really into that. And not just to buck the system for bucking's purposes.
Right.
But seriously, for being like, wait, that doesn't align. And when I'm afraid, I forget what's in alignment.
Yes.
Right?
So let's talk about a couple of these F words: fear and fatigue and failure. All three things shrink your awareness. Right? You get scared, you get tired, you think you're going to fail. All the options that you've been ideating come down to survival mode, and you miss the opportunity to make a decision that actually changes your life. Right? Yeah.
Because when all that comes down, we get to our basis instincts, which is that bottom line. Like, I got to survive. Whatever I have to do to survive versus thrive, live, expand, right? So I'm just like, what do I got to do? If I get too scared, I'm like, I got milk in my fridge.
Right.
I got a blanket.
All the time. And so we got to also be mindful that the things around us, the circumstances, situations, conditions, environment, infodemic, media that are telling us to feel fear are limiting our capacity to make expansive choices.
1,000%.
Right. And your courage is in your choice, not in your intention, like in your instinctual bravery. Right. This is not like, oh, I got to go out and slay the dragon. This is, I got to slay the dragons in my mind that keep telling me that if I do this, I'm going to lose or I don't have what it takes to win. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump back. Okay. So I've seen your vision manifest in several different ways. Let's talk about some wins. Like what have you seen come to fruition in your vision? There's out there, people love to use the word manifest. We're going to say live into, like we create and live into. What have you seen come to pass in your vision?
I mean, so many things actually. And so, I'll bring a few to the conversation and, feel free to jump in where I might forget. But I think the thing that stands out to me in this moment is this business is actually having done the thing, because the business for me represents freedom, right? The business and the ability to bring in enough money represents freedom for me, right? That was like the original purpose, was like, I'm locked into this. I'm not well, and I have all these other things I need to do to get well, and this is holding me down. Right? So the freedom that has been gifted to me, that I lived into, is the first thing. It being successful
on your own terms,
on my own terms, like legitimately on my own terms, right? And I work from home, right? That's the biggest on your own terms that I think, at least for right now, right? Right now, I'm like, oh, this is that. So, so being able to launch this business, to have it work, being able to bring in the kind of money that I felt I needed to sustain myself.
Mm-hmm.
One of my cutest things that happened is I wrote into my vision that I wanted a cockapoo. And I have a cockapoo, and he's so sweet. He's my sweet bow boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I happened to like be going through some of my old notebooks and found that I've written somewhere that I wanted 2 cockapoos, and now I have a second cockapoo. I did not know that. I didn't remember that I'd written that. It was just in a notebook somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm revising my vision statements, and I'm like, oh my God, it says that.
Yeah.
I
Let's
have
just also just remind people, right? Like the vision is not a stagnant statement. It's not a manifesto. It's a living, breathing document that grows as you grow, becomes as you becomes. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is a level of physical wellness that I have achieved. When I first started this work, I was in a different place physically
Mm-hmm.
because of the surgery and stuff like that, and so I wanted to be able to like get up from the floor on my own.
Yeah.
Right. We had a mastermind retreat, and I needed like 2 people to help me get off the floor from a seated position.
Yeah.
If you know anything about me, I love sitting on the floor. My sister's always like, "Are you on the floor?" And I'm like, "It's the best place to be." But I couldn't get down to the floor on my own. I couldn't get up on my own. Right.
Yeah.
So that was in it, like physical, like agility, flexibility, the ability to walk my dog a 5-minute distance in under 30 minutes. Right. So that came to pass. Having relationships that are very, very reciprocal, and that I'm getting what I'm giving, right? So they're not one-sided relationships. What else? Oh, being able to track the financial situation around my business, like being able to sit in the face of the numbers and not be freaked out, right? Like I wanted to be like, courageous and brave and like forward thinking, and having the right people to support my business, so that some of the fears I had were quelled because I had taken care of business. So I have a wonderful woman who does my books. I have a brand new accounting team who's keeping me on track with that, right? I have another wonderful person who's helping me organize this is a big calendar, the year ahead, right? That is something that I called like disorganization. So I have a post-it here that says, what do I want more and what do I want less of? So the first thing is confusion. The second thing is clutter. And the third thing is worry and fear, right? Because I want more fun, focus, and discipline. And so these are all things that I surround myself with, so that I remember, what are you bringing? What are you calling forward? What are you calling forward? So even that, just the ability to keep surrounding myself by the things that call me higher.
Yeah. And so there's a question in the chat from Jean, one of our other partners in Believing. Now, let me just give you a little bit of backstory on Jean, because I think the question is coming from a really real place. But if you don't know the backstory, so Jean is one of our former clients at Steps and Stages, still in the family. Her dream and vision was to move to another country and become a rollerblade painter. She has done that. And her question in the chat is, how do you buck the system in another country that would you really already buck the system of your life to get there, right? So, Jean, I think it's twofold. One is, what do you want now? And what will it take to get it? And then that becomes the next kind of thing you uproot or excavate to make the change. Because a lot of times when people think about bucking the system, they think about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, like, I quit, I'm leaving, right? And sometimes it's really just a mental shift that says, oh, I'm going to no longer look at this as my job. I'm going to look at this place or this thing I'm doing as my primary client, and I'm going to start taking other clients. Right? It's that simple. It's a mental shift. It's a way you spend your time and spend your energy. So once you decide what you want, then you can decide what the thing is that you uproot next. That's a great question, Jean. Thank you. Let's talk about the visioning process a little bit, Wyneshia, because I think, there's other things in that vision that are calling you to be a mother, to be so many things inside of this bigger vision that you have. But how has the vision allowed you to be more courageous in your choices?
I think the word that comes to mind is repetition. And
Mm.
so even as I said, I have a notebook or two. I mean, I have several now over the years of
Yeah.
me revising, so the repetition of the process of
Yeah.
seeing what would I love and what now
Mm-hmm.
and what now
Mm-hmm.
and what now. So as I sort of check off the list of the things,
Yeah.
right, it allows me to realize, because often I think what happens is that, like, when I was not, I'll speak for myself, when I was not
Okay.
writing it down, right, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just sort of thinking it would be very easy for me to take things off
Mm-hmm.
and leave it out. I'll leave this out. I'll leave this out. I'll leave this
Mm-hmm.
out, right?
Or your lesson, I'll shorten that. I'll make this a lesser number because that's not realistic.
That's correct, right? But
Mm-hmm.
once I write it down, right, there's also some science and psychology around writing. What happens when you put pen to paper and write
Correct.
it out and you see it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So being able to, like, write over and over, being able to continue to be in a process of revealing, right?
Yeah.
Revealing yourself to yourself
Yes.
has allowed me to be way more courageous. So I sort of joke and say my sweetest gift has, vision realized, has been this dog, Bo.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for those of you who know me, Bo is like, my little son.
Yeah.
Right. And so it seemed as though it was like the simplest thing, right? Like, oh, a dog, that's a big deal. Everybody has dogs, whatever, blah, blah, right?
Everybody has dogs.
Because it's cute. I know you're not into that. I'm just saying, not everybody. Lots of people who have dogs love dogs. And, I was like, oh, this is simple. This is easy. Like, in the beginning of the process, I just wrote the things that other people say.
Uh-huh.
Just the things you hear people say.
Yeah.
And the more I really thought about what would I really love? Like, what am I asking for? It doesn't really look like what other people are wanting. And so for me, being legitimately surrounded by people who aren't like, girl, that don't make no sense. Why would you?
Mm-hmm.
That is, are you sure? Right?
Yeah. Who want that? Why would you want that? Mm-hmm.
Why do you need a bigger house? Why do you need a dog? Why do you need a kid? Like, what? You're fancy free and single. Why do you need that?
Mm-hmm.
And so being with people, I think surrounding myself with folks who are also dreamers, right? And who also are courageous. Even if, like, sometimes you step out and you're like, oh, right? Like, seeing that, like, sort of borrowing on someone else's courage and someone else's ideas and believing about themselves made me more like, in the beginning, I was like, this is risque. Like, this is risky for me to be saying these things out loud. And then now I'm like, I'll say anything, like, because I'm like, if I say it, it can be. And so I just think that, like, I kind of got off a little bit there, but I think that ultimately what the process helps me do through repetition of asking the question, what would you love? Mm-hmm. It's so much more different than, like, what would you like?
Yeah.
What seems nice? What do other people say, like Black women who, entrepreneurs should have? Like, no, what would you love to have? What do you want it to look like? What is it? What feels good to you? Like, what brings you alive? And not a lot of people are asking that kinds of question.
Right.
Asking that, it touches something different when someone is looking at you and saying, "What would you love?"
Yeah. And not what you can make happen. Mm-hmm.
Not what you can make happen. What do you think is possible? Yep. What is the life as you have lived it thus far? Who is possible for you?
Yep.
But what would you love? And so I think what the process helped me do was to just keep confronting that.
Yeah.
Confronting what actually was a cover up for my, my basis self, the protection of that self.
Yeah.
Right. But being able to say, there's another self, there's a higher self.
Yeah.
There's a wider self. Right. Yeah. Like, and so the more I confronted that, and kind of kept peeling back the layers of, like, oh, is this the self? Oh, is this the self? And I should go this way. I should go up, right? Because this is what I was revealing.
Yes.
Higher self. And then it became fun, right? Because now I'm like, all right, what else?
Right. And I think you're saying something that's really clear. And I just want to make it even clearer for people who are listening, who aren't doing this work, who don't really know what the work is, right? But in order to practice your future self, your higher self, You have to stop patronizing the self that gets the most attention or accolades from the world. Sometimes, right? Sometimes you have to go deeper into that to find out who you really are. But the patronization of something or some other identity that people have gotten used to actually keeps you being used in that same scenario rather than evolving into your future self. So the vision gives you not only a blueprint for what it is you're trying to build as a life, it builds the person who gets to live that life. That's the work we're doing. Like, that's the work, right? And I often think, especially when you and I have these conversations, Wyneshia, about therapy and coaching and people not knowing the difference, but also the way that they work in tandem. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinician. I am not going to be the one that goes, what do you think? I'm a coach. I'm going to be like, why are you still doing that? Can we stop? Okay, you said that last time. Put that down, pick up a calculator. If you're building this business, let's run the numbers. If you really want to go on a date, let's go outside. You know, like all the things that sometimes feel like you need a direction. So sometimes the excavation of your past is where therapy happens, and the navigation of your future is where coaching happens, right? So I just want to say that out loud because I think some people get those confused. And just to be clear about roles and ethics and what people do, right? If you have a coach that you love, great. Just remember that coach is maybe not be a trained therapist, right? So be clear about what you need in all of these relationships as you build your future self and build a new foundation while excavating old habits. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, this excavation versus navigation, which of course I love. And I think that it's why I'm so comfortable saying I'm a therapist who does therapy and has a coach.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is different to me. I'm not going to talk about what it's like for other people. I mean, right. I could, but not the point. But it is different for me. And so much of what I've been able to, again, reveal and uncover is this idea that, like, I can have whatever my, like, childhood experiences were, or, whatever childhood needs may or may not have been met. And that's real. And I also get to say, I can liberate myself from what I used to think that meant I couldn't have, be, or do. Right. And so I think it also, dare I say, and, I just did a training on a very, like, short practice, or like a 10 session therapy intervention. Yeah. And so, yes, there are some that are short and they work, and it's great. It was a great methodology. And I would say a lot of therapy work takes years.
Long term. Yeah, we got to play the long game.
It's a long game, And so, again, this is what I get paid to do. This is what I'm called to do, is to be a therapist. And so I'm not, I'm just saying that adding the coaching piece has, like, accelerated the process for me. It really has accelerated the process for me. And so, and that is also why I do it, right? So some people say, "Are you still in that coaching?" But sure am. Yeah. Why? Well, I don't have to explain it to you because I understand. Yeah. Right? And what I understand is that, like, I'm a dynamic person. I'm a nuanced individual. So I need nuanced care. Yeah. Right? Like, I need nuanced care. And that is also something I recognize in my own personal health journey, was that, like, I need nuanced care. I need a this kind of person and a that kind of person and that kind of person. And maybe somebody's going to read a tarot card for me, and maybe somebody's going to do some Reiki and whatever. I need all of the things because I am so extensive, right? Like, I'm so dynamic, I'm so diverse inside myself. So I want to reflect that in the support that I get in my growing. Yeah, because otherwise you let those parts of you go, and really we are a sum of all of our parts. So if you have a deep inquiry about a certain methodology or something that's going well or not going well in the world, you want to know something more about, squelching that desire to ask the question actually tells you, in your building of your intuitive voice and your confidence, that something about you is not right. Right. So we just want to also just say that out loud, y'all. The questions determine the quality of your life.
And if you're not willing to ask the question, or a deeper question, a bigger question, you're actually not willing to grow. And the biggest thing you can do in your transformative process is to be willing to grow in any way that feeds the vision. So we're going to, wrap up. We've held y'all for a little bit. One, the vision determines the quality of your life. You have to ask the questions. You have to surround yourself with people. If you're looking for a circle to be a part of, jump over to thevisionzone.com. Make sure you're in the vision circle. It is one of the most, I think, dynamic things we've ever offered. This is not a high ticket coaching program. This is a monthly membership where our clients from all over the world of different statuses, statures, colors, races, professional backgrounds come together because they're all desiring to grow, not because everybody wants to do the same thing. Right? It's the practice that actually produces the vision. So in this circle, my job is to teach you how to practice. Wyneshia, what are your final comments for our people watching today?
I think, what I want to go back to this whole like cover up versus reveal. I really want to go back to that because I think that, there are a number of people who believe that, even therapy is covering up or religion is covering up and, masking, parts of yourself or masking the work, whatever the work might be, or, you're like paying into this, this high ticket coaching program, you're not getting anything out of it. I just want to say that, like, for me, that might be true if in fact you are not revealing.
Yes.
Right. If new information is not coming, you're not getting anything new, then maybe it's not the right thing for you. But if you are growing yourself in a way that is filling up the space around you, if you are able to be in touch and in tune with your purpose, if you've locked in on what your purpose is in life and you feel like you're just slightly below it, then you want to keep revealing, you want to keep growing, you want to keep changing. And sometimes folks around us get very comfortable with who we are,
who we've been,
who we've been to them, and how who we have been and how we have been maybe serves them. And I think often what happens is that as we start expanding, sometimes we start to, like I say, overseed the yard, like you overseed the grass or you push out the weeds. Yeah. Right. And some, if you know anything about weeding, the weeds, they come back. They're like, we're here, we're here. And if you can overseed, right, with the things that grow you, you're going to eventually grow up more grass, right? And there'll be no space for the weeds. And so that is what I want to say, is that if you have a passion for growing, if you have locked on your purpose, right, and you need some support, you got to go seek it. You got to go seek it.
And doing new things brings about new results. That's the bottom line. And if you don't try, we have now a mutual mentor, Mary Morrissey, that says, inspiration without action is merely entertainment. And so as me having been in education and artistry for over 30 years, my next level of that is information without instruction leads to insecurity. So a lot of people are out there trying to gather and do all their own research, and that research is just making them more of a skeptic, which keeps them stuck without making a decision. And the decision is the discerning tool that changes your life. Wyneshia, I'm proud of you. Just want to say it out loud. I'm proud of the entrepreneur you've become. I'm proud of you for taking the steps to make your vision your reality. And I know that there's so much more to come. And I just am really grateful and humble that I get to walk this pathway with you, that I get to be on this wise road to healing alongside you as your vision coach. And I can't wait to see what happens. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments of this video and we'll get back to it. But for now, thank you for watching People on Purpose. And we hope that your dream continues to unfold. See you soon.